If you haven't seen the previous episodes, please check out the other videos on the channel first. Actually, I didn't come here because of the rumors you're worried about. It's just that I've been hearing a lot of talk lately, and I got curious about who it's all about. I can't stand being curious, you know. Oh, it's the first time we've had an employee cause such a big problem, so there's been a lot of talk in our HR department too, about whether we should let you go. Taeyoung's face was filled with worry, his eyebrows drooping as he fretted over whether he was about to be unemployed again. Just then, a woman, who appeared to be a customer, walked in, and Seokyeon, who had greeted her, quickly excused himself, leaving just the two of them alone. "You're Taeyoung, right?" Jimin, who had noticed his name tag, smiled as she asked, and Taeyoung nodded weakly, muttering, "Yes, they say misunderstandings between people can be cleared up through conversation, right? How about meeting with the vice president, what? But I don't think someone like him would have the time to meet someone like me. Oh, you never know." Jimin's innocent smile only made Taeyoung feel more anxious. There's no way the vice president's grandson would meet a lowly employee like him, right? To Taeyoung's surprise, the answer came back positive. Still skeptical, Taeyoung went up to the 20th floor and nervously approached the receptionist. After a few words on the phone, the receptionist gave him a soft smile. "As it happens, the vice president is in the conference room right now. He says you can go in." "What? Really?" Taeyoung's eyes widened in disbelief as he awkwardly made his way down the hallway. His mind was swirling with questions. If I had known this would happen, I would have prepared something. He'd expected nothing to come of this, so now he was more flustered than anything. Soon, he reached the room at the end of the hall, knocked on the large door, and cautiously opened it. Inside, surrounded by a mountain of paperwork, was Jeonguk, quietly reading through the documents while wearing light-rimmed glasses. Dressed sharply in a beige suit, he looked as sophisticated as ever. Feeling overwhelmed by his presence, Taeyoung hesitantly closed the door behind him and carefully approached, stopping right in front of Jeonguk. Vice President." Jeonguk didn't even glance his way, focused entirely on the papers before him. "Did he really tell me to come in?" Taeyoung's mind raced with questions, and the stress was giving him a headache. After what felt like an eternity, Jeonguk finally removed his glasses and closed the document in front of him. "What do you want?" His tone was as cold as expected, but Taeyoung was just grateful for the acknowledgement. Clenching his fists in nervousness, he spoke up, "I came to apologize for the mistake I made last time, Vice President. I'm really sorry, and ashamed. So I came to apologize in person, even though I know it's rude." Jeonguk, now sitting up straight, stared directly at Taeyoung's face, making him feel even more self-conscious. Unable to hold the gaze, Taeyoung looked down, fumbling through his pockets before pulling out a crisp 5,000 won bill. He'd specifically brought new money, thinking that handing over crumpled bills might leave a bad impression. "What is this?" Jeonguk glanced down at the neatly folded bill in Taeyoung's hands, his expression unreadable. Swallowing nervously, Taeyoung spoke again, "It's for the soup you paid for last time. I figured it was only right to pay you back." His voice trailed off as he hung his head lower. With no other option, Jeonguk reluctantly accepted the bill and stood up, appearing to be getting ready to leave. "If you're here about HR matters, you don't need to worry. I hate wasting time on pointless things." Hearing Jeonguk's cold reply, Taeyoung felt a pang of regret. "I should have just stayed away." He squeezed his eyes shut, mentally berating himself for causing yet another mess. Was Jeonguk really about to leave him behind again? He neatly packed his documents into his bag and headed toward the door, his back turned to Taeyoung once more. Watching him leave, Taeyoung felt utterly hopeless. "If there is a God, why is life so unfair to me?" Sigh. Still standing in the same spot long after Jeonguk had left, Taeyoung slowly dragged his feet toward the exit. Just as his hand reached for the door handle, it unexpectedly swung open by someone else's hand. "The Vice President." Taeyoung's eyes widened in shock as Jeonguk stepped back inside. Before he could even process the situation, Jeonguk frowned at the sight of him and immediately grabbed Taeyong by the arm. Huh? What the? Taeyong, caught off guard by Jeonguk's sudden action, could only stumble along as he was led away. Jeonguk dragged him into a tiny space behind the large screen in the conference room, cluttered with electronic devices. Squeezing into the narrow area, Jeonguk pulled Taeyong in with him. Moments later, someone burst through the conference room door, John Jeonguk. The woman's voice called out Jeonguk's name as her eyes darted around the room. She seemed frantic in her search, but the empty room gave her no clues. After a moment of looking around, she appeared disappointed. Meanwhile, in the cramped space, Taeyong found himself pressed against Jeonguk's chest and let out a small noise. Jeonguk immediately looked down at Taeyong, his jaw clenched. In the tight quarters, they could barely move their arms, and Jeonguk's piercing gaze made Taeyong more nervous. Oblivious to the tension, Taeyong tried to speak again, but I was just trying to. Before Taeyong could finish his sentence, Jeonguk silenced him by covering his mouth with his lips. Taeyong's eyes widened in shock as Jeonguk kissed him, their lips pressing together. The sudden intimacy left Taeyong dazed, the softness of Jeonguk's lips and the subtle scent of soap overwhelmed his senses. Jeonguk maintained the kiss, keeping an eye on the woman through the door crack. Only after she left the room did Jeonguk pull back.